Nigeria's equities market closed the year today on a gentle positive note, as you saw earlier. But the outgoing year on both stocks and debt had been eventful, and quite a few corporate headlines from this year are expected to materialize in the new year starting tomorrow. Helping me to draw down the curtain on the markets in 2021 with insights into 2022 is the Chief Executive Officer and Head of Dealing at Carry Asset Management, Johnson Chuckwu. Thank you very much for making the time this evening. We appreciate it. It's a New Year's Eve, so we appreciate the time you need to spend with us. Of course, we should share that, of course, with your family and share part of that with us. Thank you so much. Now, but let's hit the ground running. Quite a lot of areas to cover. What is your broad outlook for the financial markets in the new year, 2022?
Well, Bossy, before I go to the outlook for the new year, let me say Happy New Year to Nigerians and Happy New Year to you, Bossy, and to the crew in Arise, to the entire team of Arise Television. Back to what we're saying, the outlook for the new year is, I think we should expect some further improvement in the economic outlook in the new year, particularly given the fact that we have seen some level of stability in the macroeconomic environment. We've seen an improvement in the inflation rate. We've seen inflation rate drop to 15.4%. We've seen the economy grow second quarter at 3%. We've seen a growth in the GDP figure. So you are seeing a gradual improvement in the macroeconomic environment. And that improvement is expected to dovetail into a stable macro financial market in the new year. So I expect that you're going to see more investment in the equities market, more investment in the fixed income market, irrespective of the fact that we are going to see a year that will be largely dominated by political activity. But that will also inject liquidity into the Nigerian economy. You know, political activity has a way of bringing liquidity into the economy. So those who are going to have access to liquidity will invest, some in fixed income instruments, some in equities instruments. But most importantly, the year 2021 is signposting a return of retail investors in the equities market. You saw the level of interest that was shown by retail investors in the MTN public offer. So that is expected to be replicated maybe by one or two other companies that will come into the market with strong fundamentals. So I should expect, my expectation in the new year is that we should have a stronger and more stable financial system, more stable economic environment.
Yeah, Johnson, this is a year, speaking specifically to the equities market. NGX is now fully demutualized, but we saw a few new listings this year, just about 2 or 3. What more needs to be done to attract more listings?
Well, the reasons why we saw very few listings, only 3, including the NGX itself, is because we're coming from an economic crisis. We're coming from if you remember, last year was a depression, a recession, and companies are just trying to tidy up themselves. So the attraction of coming to the equities market to list was not strong. I want to believe that as the economy is strong, recovering, and stronger business operators are evolving, we should see more listing, particularly when people have to go to the market to raise equities. Remember that in 2020 and 2021, there were a lot of development finance initiative, intervention fund that are provided by the central bank. So there was no compelling need. If you can go to the central bank, any of the central bank windows, access money at 5%, you won't see any compelling need to go to the equities market to access equities, or even go to the bond market and access bonds at maybe 12-13%. So what we saw in the bond market, in the fixed income market, we were in the short end of the market where you saw commercial papers that were offered by companies as a way of raising short-term funds.
Okay, so we will have a lot more to talk about when we return. Young Nigerians seem to not to be too keen about investing in stocks or like cryptos and other those assets, fancy assets. I'm going to ask you if you're worried about that when we come back. Stand by, everyone. Johnson Chuckwu, CEO at Carry Asset Management, and everyone. We'll be right back. Yeah, welcome back, everyone, to the Forward Future 2022 Market Conversation with my guest, Johnson Chuckwu, the CEO and Head of Dealing at Carry Asset Management. Thank you very much, Johnson Chuckwu, for making the time this evening to wrap up the year for us. My question, as we're going to the break, was look at the level of interest in which Nigerian young ones are displaying when it comes to crypto assets, investing and all of that. How can we get more of these young folks and others to trade and invest in traditional financial asset instruments and not just run after cryptos and others just like that, because we need to increase the number of participation.
Yes, absolutely, Bosin. I think the starting point that we need to provide services to them using the same channel that they use to trade in cryptocurrencies. Basic thing that we have seen the younger people are basically digitally savvy. And the digital platform is basically the platform they're using to do virtually everything they do. They're using for socializing, they're using for businesses. So we must also migrate our services away from the brick and mortar platforms into digital platforms. So basically, we will put our services on the same platform that is their channel of engagement, and that's the way they can begin to use this. And what we have done in Cowry, for instance, we've now gone virtual, so you can do almost everything with your handheld device. And I'm sure that's also where all financial institutions are going to go into, because with the level of availability of digital services in the world, young people, you can, if you stay with a young person, they are permanently on their phone. You will be beside them and they won't even notice you, because they are basically using these digital platforms. And that's why any service, any product offering that comes in the digital platform is their play, and this is available on their playground. And two, gives them good economic returns. They remember these young people are risk, they have high risk appetite, so they're ready to take risk. So basically, what happens is that they are ready to bet their resources on anything that will give them quick return, and crypto seems to give that. They are not worried about the high oscillation in terms of price of crypto, but they watch it and take advantage of it.
Johnson, if you allow me to respectfully cut in there, maybe licensed firms like yourself need to change your name and ask the SEC to give you a new name. Maybe instead of Cowry, you become something like Crypto, whatever. And these young ones come in with very sexy name. They want something sexy. They want the names that comes out of the Star Wars and things like that. Not the traditional brick and mortar you and I know. Maybe there's a time to begin to change names and maybe make it look. Is there something we can do to sell this stock market, bonds, treasury bills, names and of assets that sounds very archaic to them, to make it 21st century?
Yes, Wilson, I think I agree with you. We need to also brand to be in tandem to conform to the new culture that you have among the young people. Basic thing is this, and like I was telling some of my church ministers that came to see me today, and I said, look, if you do not transform your system to be in tandem with what the youths want and how they operate, you're going to be out of business in a short time. And that's basically what's going to happen. So even us, as traditional financial institutions, we have to also do some level of transformation that will put us in the same pedestal that the young people can relate with.
Okay, fine. No, I understand. I want us to move on. Because next time we're doing an interview, you're going to come dressed like Jeff Bezos, whatever, the crypto guys, whatever. Elon Musk, just have a little face cap, some T-shirt. Say, oh, I like that guy. What's he talking about? Yeah. Maybe not in this suit, but you can leave me with this because I don't have anything else. Let's talk about the debt market, which continues to overshadow equities. How can we rebalance this a little bit?
Well, remember that what is happening and what investors are basically doing is that they look for opportunities that will give them higher returns and lower risk. Remember, naturally, fixed income instrument, which is the debt market, gives lower risk because you are sure of your principal investments. So for anybody to switch from fixed income instrument to equity instrument, there must be strong prospects that the increase in risk will be compensated by higher returns. Unfortunately, because we are coming from a recessionary period, the return on equity instruments is not yet assured to outperform the fixed income space. Remember, take for instance the 10-year federal government bond. The yield is more than 11%. Compare that to the dividend yield across the board. You realize that there's no dividend and there's no instrument giving you a yield about dividend yield of more than 5%. So investors are conscious of risk and risk return trade-off, and therefore they are switching. They are more active in the fixed income space. I also believe that as we enter the new year and economic activities begin to increase and businesses begin to make more profit, so the return on investment in equities will increase, there will be a switch again to equities. Investors will underweight their portfolios in fixed income and overweight them in equity. But now, the metrics, the macroeconomic metrics favor fixed income instrument. We're going to see that change in investors' appetite for fixed income instruments as the yield environment changes.
Okay, so where are we on the 10-year Nigerian capital market roadmap? That will be about 9 years by next September. Is any idea how much progress we've made?
Yeah, boss, we made a tremendous progress, and I think one of which is actually before us here is that Nigeria Stock Exchange has now been demutualized into NGX and the successor companies. So we now have NGX traded on itself and also going to be quoted on other exchanges. So that's the hallmark, one of the hallmark of the Nigeria Capital Market roadmap. But we've also seen a situation where the telco companies, one of the sector that accounts for about 14.9% of the GDP, is now listed. We have e.t.c listed, we have MTN listed, and one of the objectives is to bring in the sectors of the economy that contribute significantly to the GDP to be listed. So we've seen a lot of milestones that we've achieved. We have currently more than 4 exchanges. I mean, 3 exchanges. You have NGS, you have FMDQ, you have NASDAQ, NASD. They are all exchanges currently operating in the country. So we've done a lot of, and we've seen a lot of improvement in terms of reporting. We have moved from paper dividend to e-dividend, and we have a direct cash settlement scheme in place today. And virtually all the companies, everybody who has invested in shares can actually have your direct settlement and as well as get your dividend electronically through e-dividend. So we've seen a lot of progress in that roadmap.
Okay. President Buhari today signed the budget 2022 into effect. So thankfully, we're saying we're looking to the new year starting tomorrow morning with the implementation of that. Are you hopeful that the government will make good its plans, which has always been in the pipeline to use the market for the privatization of some public entities? Do you see that likely happening in 2022 despite being an electioneering year?
I think that the process may start in 2022, but I don't think we may see a lot of concluded public auction offer of government-owned companies to the public, to the capital market. In the first place, you have to look at which are those companies that are left and owned by the government. As it stands today, many of the corporate organizations that were previously owned by the government had to some extent been privatized, and you have some private sector stake already in those companies. And the process of offering the remaining shares of government to the public will take some time to prepare the grant for that. But I think the federal government, if they are determined, they will start. But remember also, both the government has always had this in their budget year in, year out, that part of publicly held companies will be offered to the public through privatization. And the government is going to realize some of privatization process that will be part of the government revenue for the budget. We've not seen that for the past 4 years. So I don't think next year will be a materially different departure from that. Also added to the fact that you had mentioned that next year is going to be an election year, a pre-election year. The parties are going to go to their primaries. By the time you get to March, April, the parties will be preoccupied. Governance will take a back seat, and you are going to see a lot of political activities in the new year.
Johnson Chuckwu, licensed trader and CEO at Carrier Asset Management. Thank you so much for your time, and do have a pleasant holiday weekend, and wish you all the best in the new year.